All right, you guys, welcome. We are going to get started here in just a minute or two. We will wait until the clock strikes 11, and then we'll get going with Suzanne here. But I wanted to welcome you guys first and foremost. My name is Mark Thackeray. I'm a new face here. So if you're looking at me like, who is this dude with a weird shirt? Then that's who I am. I help drive the marketing here at Driving Sales. Bart is out of town right now, so I'm filling his big shoes. And I put my shirt on because my daughters gave this to me for a Father's Day present. So you kind of have to bear with me for the time being, but I'm really, really excited about this topic. We're going to be diving into talking a lot about the customer journey. And I've got Suzanne Reamer here with me from LotLinks, who has a wealth of experience. We were just talking before we started just about some of that experience. And we're going to get into the nitty gritty with this. I'm really, really excited because I've seen personally in my life in different verticals too, just how effective this approach is. So really, really excited to get going with that. Starting to see some people come in, and Brian, Dan, thanks for coming, jumping on, you guys, Hannah, Kelsey, Mike, Ryan. If you guys don't mind, we've got a chat, a feature down at the bottom. You can chime in on the chat, or you can ask questions via the Q&A button as well. If you wouldn't mind just letting me know where you guys are listening from, just type it in the chat, what city you're in. And also if you're a dealer or if you're a vendor, that also helps us get a better idea of who we're talking to, and we can customize that message accordingly. So just type that in the chat when you get a minute. And then if you do have questions, we will be fielding some questions as we go through this. And so just type those in the chat. We'll do our best to answer those. I know when I get talking, Suzanne, I'm not sure if you're the same way, but when I get talking marketing, it's like I fire hose a little bit. So you might need to, you guys might need to be ready. No, but starting to see some come in. Detroit, nice. I love it. Wisconsin, excellent. San Diego, Chicago, nice. Very, very cool. Very cool. Corpus Christi, down south. I love it. Love it. Yeah. Thanks for hopping on, you guys. We'll I think we are hitting the 11 o'clock mark. So without further ado, why don't we get started? As I mentioned, my name is Mark Thackeray. I help drive the marketing for Driving Sales. And I have a very special guest with me, Suzanne Reamer, who is the VP of Customer Acquisition and Marketing over at LotLinks, joining us today. Suzanne, welcome. Excited to have you on the show today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so why don't you take a minute, Suzanne, just take a minute or two and give everyone listening a little bit of background on your experience, and then so that we can get a little bit better context on what we're going to be talking about and really why they should be paying attention to you, because I know you have that experience, and we, like I mentioned before, we were talking about this before, so really excited to get started. So yeah, share a little bit about yourself, and then we'll dive right into the topic.
Yeah, no, thanks. I have been a marketer for 25 plus years. I like to just keep it at that. And I've been on both the B2B and B2C in multiple verticals. I was in, before joining LotLinks, I've only been here for 3 months now, so I'm a new addition to the team. But I spent some time at a company called Automotive Mastermind. I was their first hire and took them through, from a marketing perspective, through acquisition of IHS Markit. So that was a great accomplishment, and I love the vertical. I didn't necessarily have plans to come back, but the vertical sucked me back in, and so now I'm in, and I really enjoy really sharing the learnings and knowledge that I've had over the years. I've worked for major big companies like Unilever, Campbell's Soup Company, more on the B2C side, but then in some smaller businesses and startups on the tech and in multiple verticals. So happy to be back in automotive, because you guys have a very complex business proposition, and with a lot of changes, obviously, since COVID, and I'm hoping I can help have you think about marketing maybe a little bit differently than you have, and that's what I'm going to try and educate you on today.
That's awesome. Yeah, that is so cool. Okay, well, we're going to let me pull up the slides, and then we will get started. right away. Let's see. So let's click on that. And yeah, we're going to be talking all about the consumer journey. And I just think that this is such a timely message, as we're getting, and this is a question that I'll ask later, but maybe I'll ask it now, Suzanne. Just you were talking a little bit about B2B and B2C, and then you've worked with some very large organizations before, as well as some small businesses. Do you find that there's how applicable is this for both? I mean, obviously the big companies are doing this, but with the small companies as well, is it just as applicable?
Well, it is applicable. It's just a question, your journey might take different shapes and forms, and the content types may take different shapes and forms, but you really have to, it's really all about, you have to put the customer, if it's B2B, or the consumer in the forefront, and really think about them throughout your entire proposition. And really that's the trick. And it sounds super easy, but it's complex because of the way advertising is so fragmented. Everybody's, literally living on their cell phone. So, you've got to be where they are, and where and what and put out messages in the mind frame that they can adapt and accept at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, why don't you jump right in, and then just tell me when you want to switch the slides.
Yep, you can go. Thank you. So I'm not going to, obviously the journey is the journey. And you've probably seen this and be like, okay, I get this. I see that. Everybody says they're aware of the journey, but what I'm finding is when they're doing their marketing plans, they're not necessarily thinking about how am I communicating and what am I communicating and where am I communicating at each different point along the journey. You really have to take the time to really break it down. And it's such an important investment because there's you're spending a lot of money on advertising, and, whatever your budgets are, you want to make sure you're getting that return on investment. And so you really have to look back at like, what are your overall key goals and objectives? And then, what do you want the consumer to do? What is your end goal with the consumer? And most of the times in the dealerships, I would think it would be to sell more cars. I mean, you want to sell more cars. It sounds easy, but what is the path that you need to do in order to get there? And then, where you have to think also about where people are living. They're living on their phones. So you have to take that, journey and make sure it's applicable on, somebody's phone, and they can see it well, react to it well, and they're getting their answers at the time they want to have their answers. And people are in it like, I want it now, and like, I want it now time frame. They want their information when they want it, how they want it. And so, the consumer is the king. I mean, we need to be adapting to the consumer. And, if you're not investing enough into, really not only time, but your budgets, and really breaking them down and really having high level strategic discussions on what can we do, then you're probably missing the mark. And then wondering why you're not necessarily converting at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it's all about conversions. It's how do you want to lead that, it's that road to the sale. What am I doing on the road to the sale? So we can go to the next slide. So here I'm laying out, here's what somebody's thinking, for automotive, which car is best. They might be having a lifestyle change. They might be having a, change of jobs. They're having kids, they're getting married, moving to suburbia. And so these transitions bring on, a need for a new car, a different car. So you want to, capture these people at a very high level. You don't want to sell them right away because they're not in the saleable state of mind. And so really knowing like on the consumer side, we used to plot out where people are like mentally. We go through the journey and then think about what their mindset is. So is this car right for me? And then they go through kind of the selections. Then they narrow it down, can I afford it? And then it's like, oh, then they go, then they're looking at pricing and doing the comps on the website. And then where should I buy it? So, and this goes back to, knowing, having an affinity to a dealership, and that's created with, proper branding and of the dealership, not of the car, but of the dealership. So I see a lot of, obviously the OEMs give you advertising, but what I don't see a lot of is the dealerships really creating a persona and a personality for themselves, which is really, really important. Like talking about the philanthropy that they do, talk about the service offerings that they have. And those are things that are going to resonate with people when they are about to make that where to buy it decision. And then obviously, am I getting a deal? Obviously, consumers they always want to negotiate. They always want to know they're have the upper hand and they're getting a good price. I mean, that just comes with the territory. And then obviously you're at the purchase stage, and then there's follow through after that. But you just really at each stage, you really need to break this apart and really understand what types of messages, when do I give them, where do I give them, and how do I answer them, and what method do I answer them? And you want to make sure you're answering those questions really quickly. Again, consumers have no patience and they want what they want when they want it. So you can't have them just go to a homepage per se. You have to think about where they're going and the landing pages. On the B2B side, we are very, very sophisticated at developing the right landing pages, but I find on the consumer side, and this is not just auto, we're not thinking of the right landing page. We send them to the generic homepage, or we send them to we might in the instance of automotive, we might send them to a VDP, but they're not ready for a VDP. They're still in the mindset of like, which car is best at number one. So you really need to think about what is the right destination that is going to satisfy their query or their concern or their question. Next page. So this is, and this is all, you're going to have this deck afterwards. This is like a little cheat sheet on what are the right tactics to use in the right stages of awareness, conversions, close, and delight. And those are basically the journey stages. And where you want to and really breaking apart, there should be a budget broken out for each of these different phases. But even looking at your calls to action, everything is some of the tactics are the same in different areas, but what you're communicating would be different. But the CTAs and where you're driving people need to be really thought through in terms of in awareness. This is still really high level. They're strangers. You want to find out more, get more info, browse our know-how, in terms of what does the dealership do best? Hear from thought leaders. And what I mean by that is more thought leaders from the principal of the dealership, or someone in marketing who talks about all the philanthropy that they're doing, things like that. So I'm not going to go over all of these because it'll take too long, but it's really important to, and I'll send I have an updated one, and I'll send you with a little bit more precise things for automotive in this that I will send you after. But it's really important, again, like I said, to break these down, go through them, section by section, and think about how your plans resonate and how they stack up, and then tie it back to your overall goals. What are your business goals? We can go to the next page.
Suzanne, one quick question or comment, really. So as you're talking about this, it seems like it's almost like a chess match, where you're strategically thinking through these moves, as opposed to just, hey, this person, I saw this person, met this person for the first time, I'm going to ask them to buy my car. It's a lot more strategic than that. Almost, I guess another analogy could be like a dating analogy, where you don't typically propose to someone on the first date, and that's kind of what people tend to do a lot of times with when they have a business. They see someone, maybe they get their email address, and then from there on, it's just, hey, buy my product, or come to my store, or, and they don't take that time to nurture that. Alon, would you feel like that's oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the funnel is meant for nurturing, and that's what it is. You're not going to go from awareness to purchase right away. It takes time. it takes, I don't know what the consumer automotive, but in B2B automotive, I mean, it takes like 16 to 18 touch points before we can even get a demo schedules, let's say. So, and for this, consumers are doing a ton of research at the upfront. This is a very expensive product to purchase. So people are taking their time, their due diligence, and really they're probably researching on 6 to 8 sites while they're doing it. So again, if you're on those sites, it's great, but you want to be there with messaging that is very high funnel messaging, not low funnel. That could turn, if you're trying to sell and you're trying to be too salesy in an upper funnel space, that you could risk like losing that consumer potentially forever because they could get aggravated that you're just trying to sell to them and not trying to build relationships. It's all about, whether it's business, whether it's consumer, it's all about building that relationship with the consumer, and relationships to be coveted. It's really something to really nurture and take care of. And there's just things, it's not that daunting. There are things you can do to get there, but it is probably a change of thinking for some people and some methods that will change.
And one other question with that is there an area, whether it's top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom funnel, and I think I know the answer, but is there an area that is most often neglected?
I would say what I see with dealerships, the OEMs do a really nice job at promoting cars, but I don't see the dealerships really coming up with their own value propositions. I'm not seeing that come through, their own value props with how they differ from their competitors, because you just see a lot of price wars and different and things like that. But I'm not seeing a lot of that. So I think that's missing the mark. The other thing is dealers are not necessarily, and someone could challenge me, I'm all up for a challenge, someone could challenge, but dealers aren't necessarily thinking about performance marketing. And your goal is to sell more cars. Are you tracking the funnel from when someone comes in to how did they come in and did you close them? And so that's a real key, and that's potentially a big change that could be a welcome change to the industry in terms of really making sure you're tracking that from when they come in, and what were the levers that really turn them into a customer.
Yeah, I love that.
You can go to the next page. So here I created this little handy cheat sheet for you guys, and this is still high level. This could be built out with a lot more details, but it's just a really high. So it's basically taking that funnel, and then you would then each of individual dealers would say, what is the mindset of the consumer at the time? So we go through it like if in and I'll take the time to go through it because I think this can be helpful. But like in non-interest, these are people who, they could be car enthusiasts, people just like cars and like to find the new models. They enjoy keeping up on the latest car info. So their mindset is, and this could be someone who is, again, I should add a life stages and different change of jobs. And so they know that they're going to have to, at some point in the near future, make a decision on what type of car is best. So they're, here at this stage is really general branding, information on your dealer. When I say branding, it's not just the car, it's the dealership. And, the car is obviously the key, and people will find it later in terms of the car, but it's the car and the dealership. And we've got to make sure those two meet. And then, the CTAs should be the, OEM website, and then, finding the dealer website. So these, again, can be very general, but I would have things on your homepage that talk to, the attributes and your value proposition as a dealership when they get there, and not just, cars and prices. So things like that. Then you go to casual interests. Somebody knows their lease is coming up in the near future or a major life change. You can do that here as well. But these are, again, their interest is definitely picking up. They're probably, could be 4 months out from buying a car. So here's where they want to learn about new models, so it would be new model specific. You know, go out there and try and capture those life change potential buyers, so that you could do through targeting. Are you actually targeting those consumers who are going through some sort of life change? And there are ways to do that now. Targeting, obviously, with machine learning is very sophisticated. But you're still going to the OEM website and the dealer website, but you want to make sure you're going to them, you know, with the right, you know, even, you know, customized or personalized, even if, you know, you're targeting, you know, pregnant moms, you know, target them with minivans and SUVs and things like that. I mean, there are definitely ways to do that. And, you know, which could be, you know, it sounds like, oh, that's a lot of work, but these days with AI and the sophistication of finding audiences, it's not as hard as it used to be. Then you go on to more the intensive search and the comparison. They're on full on research mode. Here's where they're going to 4 to 6 sites. They spend 5+ hours online. So here's where you got to get to the, you know, the comparison, but go right to the comparison page. Don't have them go to the homepage. Go right to the comparison page, model details. And then, so here they're going, that's what I say, the CTA should be right to the dealer website into the competitive comparisons. In the related products, they're narrowing the list. They're narrowing it down and narrowing it down. So you're still at the same model comparison, but like now you're getting into features and the little nuanced details that there are. Here you're getting into, from a CTA perspective, build a model, you know, so you would want to go to directly that page, and your communication would be like, considering this or this, you know, here's where we can, here's where we, you know, here's where our features are better. And then the final deal and purchase, they're ready for purchase. Here's where they want the price deals, the dealer process, like, do you deliver? Can you get someone in and out in less than a few hours as it takes, you know, because that is a pain point of people. And that's the other thing. Think about their pain points as well. You know, really get to understand your consumers' pain points. You know, how to make the process easier is something that, you know, obviously everybody is doing it with direct to home delivery, things like that. So those are the features that you want to promote. And then obviously specific inventory. You know, here's where, you know, this is, you know, getting to the bottom of the funnel. Here's where they have their choices made. So you want to take them to those. The CTA should be the vehicle detail pages. And then this post-sale, the customer service, it's all about, you know, what are you, the features and things as a dealer for service. What do I need to maintain the car? You should have things in your messaging, like your offerings, but like tips and tools on how to maintain your car in the best light and things like that from a content perspective. And they should be able to go directly to that page on your website that offer that information, and not, you know, to the homepage. So this is a really high level. This could be worked into a lot more details. But these are the kinds of things that you should be, you know, working through with your marketing teams, your agencies, and things like that. Are there any questions on that? Because I know this is a lot.
Yes, I have a couple. But this is such good information. So when you're talking about building these out, right? I mean, you're talking about their mindset, where they're at on this journey, this customer journey. So what are some ways to help identify where they might be? You know, so if you're attracting leads via, you know, internet marketing, could be Facebook, social, it could be, you know, Google ads, whatever the case may be, what are some ways that you can help identify where that person falls on this journey?
So some of it can done with search behavior through AI and machine learning, but some of it is, you know, some will come to you, they'll click on your website, but we tend to just like take that as a lead form. Why don't we do a little survey, like survey them and ask them questions about, or even someone on the phone could be like, to just feel them out. Don't sell to them. Ask them where they are in their life, like what, you know, what do they think their, you know, purchase, what is their time frame for purchase? You know, what's happening in their lives that you know, had got them there on their site. You could either do it through like a quick little online survey, or do it on the phone, and then just make sure there's a process in place to follow through and follow up with these people based on the answers that they provided.
Yeah, because that seems like such an essential step, just so that you know what to be sending them after, I mean, otherwise you're just kind of guessing. But yeah, like you said, I guess if they're selecting which page they're going to on the site, their behavior on site, or specific messages are generating those clicks, then you can kind of assume. But I love that it's just simple idea of, hey, just ask them, I mean, just ask them what they're doing
Yeah,
right
and
now.
if you've captured their attention and they've taken the trouble to be on your site, they'll ask, I would ask like 12 or 14 questions, but I would ask
Yeah.
like 3 or 4 questions so you can get a good idea, a good picture as to, their needs. And people will appreciate that. A lot of people don't fill out surveys. That's not true. They do. If you're asking them in a way that's making them feel like you're interested in what's important to them.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And this made me think of too, I'm just thinking of my own life right now. We've got 4 girls and they're growing, and we've grown out of our car. We need a bigger SUV. Just the messaging, what messaging would appeal to me, as a parent, as a father, as my wife and I talk about, we only have a couple of years left with our oldest now, who's going to be off going to college, and who knows if she'll ever come back. She might stay until she's 25. I don't know, but chances are she'll probably just go off. And so that factors into this decision, where you could build a whole campaign around, hey, you need more space. These are the moments. This is the time that you get to spend with them. When you schedule a road trip, you go out of town, like, you're going to be with them. Otherwise you don't, those of us who've had teenagers see that, where they're gone most of the time unless you have something scheduled like this. So you can see how powerful that is, where it just ties into the emotion of what's going on in the person's life.
And emotional relevance is such an important marketing method. Like, I see a lot of auto dealers, it's all functional. It's very functional. It's like this car, this price, and these features, which what I call, functional advertising. Consumers, that sometimes becomes noise to consumers. You really need to connect with somebody emotionally and figure out, again, what is most important to them, what are their pain points, and how can I as a dealer solve those pain points. And if you think with that attitude, then you're going to develop advertising that, that stuff can come later when they're ready to, pull the trigger, But in the beginning, it's really connecting with them on an emotional level through, through advertising, through even how you answer the phone, to how you are on the phone. It has to trickle down through all of aspects of the dealership.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Are there any other questions from anybody, or?
No.
No. Okay, we can go to the next page. So now I'm going to get into the funnel and how to think about the funnel. The funnel and the journey are like, they're a little bit different to some degrees, but this is more about the messaging, like when they're at the top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel. So, again, we talked about this before, but you want your dealership to be at the forefront of the customer's mind, so when they start their shopping process, you're the dealer that they're going to visit first, because they had an affinity to you for, maybe it's your philanthropy, maybe it's your service RV, maybe that you deliver, maybe, think of those key things that make up your value proposition and what competitively differentiates you. And those are the things that you want to talk about at the top of the funnel. And even, putting out content in terms of, how to make car buying less stressful, what to think about when you're buying a car. Putting out content like that would be really interesting coming from a dealer versus an OEM. So you want to attract to people's, align with people's like values and how, they can, it's all about how they're going to think about you in the long run. And then so here's some sample topics. Again, you guys could have a whole laundry list, but this is just to get you started. But overview of the services you offer that are of value: delivery, loaner cars, snacks, and, a full-on, snack station. You give free lunches for every time someone comes in you give a gift for, taking a test drive. I'm just throwing stuff out there. the quality of your employees, humanizing and personalizing your dealership, really creating a personality for the staff. And that makes them feel good too. And so that's a win-win, even from both sides. Promote your, I see a lot of dealerships who do a lot of charitable events, but they don't promote them. And I don't understand why, because, right now, philanthropy, especially amongst Gen Z and the millennials, is so important. They value companies that do good, and do a lot of philanthropy and have a purpose and have a cause. So really promoting that can make your dealership stand out. And then promoting those, advertising and finding those audiences in those life stages, that prompt consumer need, change of job, weddings, kids, things like that. Think about, and there could be others, think about those and how you want to track those and identify them, and, almost like, get to them before they even thought about it themselves. And so you're right in the forefront of their mind. So that's top of the funnel.
And Suzanne, you were talking about earlier just how important it is to brand, differentiate yourself as, from not just everyone's using the OEM messaging, but to include this in your store messaging, right? I mean, and these are some good examples. And it just made me think of, you could you could get so creative with this, right? I mean, you can do pretty much anything, but you could partner with other local businesses to offer kind of a unique experience. If they do come in, do a test drive, they go to get a massage. I don't know. You could be so creative with this and just offer almost a hard to pass up, offer, that people, if they're in that market, man, if you're comparing that offer versus another one, it'd be a no-brainer almost.
Yep, agree.
Okay.
Okay, we can go to the next. So here's the middle of the funnel. So once the customers officially started their shopping process, they will formulate a short list of vehicles and dealerships. Now it's time for you to create a seamless pathway to the shopper. So here you want to, and here it's really important to, continue to build that trust that you've hopefully established in the upper part of the funnel. But sample testimonials on dealership experience, find customers that are willing to speak on your behalf of the experience. A broad inventory review, talk about, that, you have, all these cars at the, at your disposal. Obviously your website features, but even just, having a mobile app potentially that, is just an easier to use experience. And obviously video is king, and just making sure you have a ton of vehicle videos, but also humanize those vehicles with an actual person that takes you on a tour of the video of the car, things like that. So, try and get as, nuanced as possible in terms of, tying back to your dealership with these types of things. Any questions there?
No.
And then lastly, we have the lower funnel. So at this point, you turn, to getting the customer into your dealership. I mean, that's, on the forefront, unless you're doing home delivery. But then it's a virtual test drive, so to speak, if you offer that. But it's important to focus on enhancing so here's about the shopping experience. So personalization is really key here. At this point, you want to present to them the specific VIN that they have narrowed down their search to. And with lot links, we have the ability, we have the ability to actually, we take the VIN and we focus on the VIN. We started the VIN first, and then we find the consumers who are shopping for those VINs, and then we marry them up. It's like a marriage, and then we marry them up, but we start with the VIN, then the machine learning looks at the consumer behavior and makes that match. And then the consumer is directed right to a VDP page. Hopefully that VDP page is a good experience, because that is important too. It has to reflect like it's mobile responsive, because these consumers, 80% of them are doing this from their phones. So if the VDP page is not mobilely responsive, that could change their whole dynamic of their experience. So that's really, really important. But so at this point, you want to get very specific, making sure you're targeting the right inventory. And here you want to, make sure you have the salespeople on top of these consumers that are coming in, that are viewing your VDP page. And you want to, here's a time where you're going to close them. And so here's where you could get aggressive with pricing and features, advertise offers and deals, introduce your loyalty programs, so what comes after, and detailed videos showing the inventory in stock of that particular model that they are interested. So here you want to get personalized to the specific VIN and it's model type and body type and features that they've been searching for. So that's really it. I mean, that's pretty much, this is the roadmap of what you need to do to really break things down, look at your key objectives, your business goals, and really plot out, again, what the consumer is thinking along this journey and what's important to them. And you can even do some research, because they're probably a little bit different SKUs in different areas of the country. So I recommend really talking to consumers and finding out what their pain points are and things like that. We can go to the next slide. So action steps, meet with your marketing teams or agencies and sit down and break down the plans and budgets across the journey and make sure they tie back to your key goals. And again, really get specific on your goals. What models are you trying to sell? Where do you have a lot of inventory? Because then that might dictate the different types of consumers you're going to market to in your messaging. But really, really get specific on your goals. Carefully plot out this messaging and make sure it's aligned to that mental frame of mind that consumer is in. Ensure your CTA destinations are aligned to the ad messaging and the journey stages. Like I said, if they don't get the information that in literally right where they land, they're going to walk away. And so you'll probably get a bounce and you'll probably get a consumer that, potentially might not consider you. So it does cost you. So sending people, even though you're getting that lead and you might consider that a good lead, but if you didn't satisfy their information and their query with good information and the right information, they're gonna bounce, literally and figuratively. And then this does take work, but you will see an immediate impact if you take the time to really break this apart. You will see immediate impacts because it's all about conversion. At the end of the day, it's about how many cars you're selling. It's not how many leads you're getting, because leads are leads. If they don't convert, then it's not a good quality lead. I mean, you want a quality lead that's gonna convert. And so you got to take those even early on, those what you are calling quality leads, and you have to nurture them and message to them in the right way at the right time. And that's all I have.
Oh, that is awesome. That is awesome. Well, I've got a few additional questions for you, Suzanne, if you're okay with that. So, for someone who's getting started, so yeah, if you're working with a team or an agency, it's a great place to, schedule a time right now to meet with them to discuss this, right? So once you're in that meeting, or if you're doing it, internally, where would you start? What would be, your first step, your first action item for this?
I think it's really laying out, your overall business goals, really making sure everyone's on the same page with what those goals for the quarter are, let's say, and then literally go through each of these pages and then I think the page that if you can just map out the right messaging for the right stage, that is a key page here. And then the following pages after that, really map those out and, kind of really dig deep and really lay out all those possible iterations of what can be done. And then this is going to take some budget investment too, which could sting people. But, I think once they're set up, they're easily, changeable, from a content standpoint. So, and really talk to your agencies about, really making sure they're getting to the right audiences, and targeting is really, really important too, making sure you're getting to the right audiences, and matching that messaging and going through the exercise of developing messaging, through the different stages.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I think we've all had that experience, where whether it's in the industry, outside the industry, where we've been marketed to really, really well. I know we've all had the opposite experience too, where it comes out of nowhere and it just is so irrelevant that it's almost offensive, where like, oh, I can't even believe I don't even know who this person is, but we've also had that experience where it's so dialed in and so in tune and sync with what's going on in our life and our really the emotional desires we have, that we're just blown away, and are there examples that maybe that would be good to kind of look to or point to as, hey, these guys do it really, really well, or something that it might give them, inspiration as they're trying to formulate this whole plan?
That's a good question. You put me on the spot a little bit,
I
but
know.
I think I'm trying to think of a good example right now, and nothing's coming to mind right now. I think, things have changed a little bit since COVID. I would probably have a lot more examples before COVID, but a lot of things probably changed a little bit. But I think things like Airbnb is a good example of people who are, stick to more about, I think there's different companies for different reasons. They really have created a value proposition that, they are very consistent with in terms of, they're selling experiences, not necessarily, just, home rentals, so I
Yeah.
think it's really how you leverage your core. It's really about digging deep into your value prop and living that throughout, inside your dealership, within the inner workings, to extending to the customer as well, and the consumer.
Yeah, that's a great example actually, because I just yesterday was on Airbnb. It's funny you mentioned that, because yeah, they just retargeted me on, because I use them quite a bit, when I'm traveling, and yeah, they do a really good job with that messaging and the follow-up, obviously based on my behavior, but they customize that, and they take all the information that they've learned on me, for the past several years, and it makes for a very compelling message. When I send it, I don't just discard it, but I look at it, it hooks me in, and they do a good job of that. As you're putting this together, what I guess what are some of the challenges that you see, as they're trying to, yeah, they're trying to develop their value proposition? What are there any common mistakes or challenges that people, especially dealers, come across, or businesses in general come across when they're doing this?
I think it's very hard for people to stay emotional and not go. It's a fallback to the functional side, I see as a challenge. And the challenge is taking a step back and making sure they're taking the time in planning to really think through these things. It definitely takes some time, and it'll take more funding, because you're developing different versions of advertising and different landing pages. But at the end of the day, they're going to get it back on the conversion. So the ROI on those things. And again, it's all about testing things, and some things you'll do and it won't work, and some things do, but making sure you're testing all these things. So to really make sure you're honing in on, what is the right, way to set. You could have a value prop, and you might not be communicating it in a way that's going to resonate. So testing those things, testing different landing page destinations. If they don't have a good mobile experience, make sure their website has a great experience. Really looking at how consumers are using their website and tracking that, and make sure they're evolving their websites to align with the customer expectations of how somebody wants to navigate a website.
Yeah. Great point. Another question that came up was, how do you know when you're on the right track? What does it look like when your messaging is dialed in, from a feedback or any sort of interaction with consumers?
Yeah, I mean, you could always take the pulse and do surveys, but right now for me, if it's just the dealers, if it's the dealers, then it's about sales. Am I seeing those sales? Am I seeing did I meet those objectives and those KPIs that I set out to meet?
Mhm. Yeah, that's really what it comes down to. You'll see them kind of go through that process, the funnel, and yeah, ultimately become a customer and hopefully a lifelong customer there. Another question I had, I mean, you talked about runs, so you've got top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom funnel, and then conversion. And then there's that step, the post conversion, is that how important is that step? Is that often overlooked or just kind of undervalued?
I think that's really important, in terms of, making sure, whether the purchase is 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, potentially away, but really, again, coveting that relationship and making sure that you are, little things like if they're maybe have not gone into your dealership for service, send them an anniversary a year after they came in to buy the car, a little gift. Like it could be a cup of coffee, it could be something
Yeah.
little. Send them a gift, acknowledge their birthday, make sure you are, keeping that relationship going, and then understanding, when their, needs may change and sort of, anticipating that or, tracking that, based on being in touch.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Lots of great ideas. Oh, well, Suzanne, thank you so much for everything. Lots of great content in here. I mean, I'm excited to go back through this. Took a page and a half of notes actually, so I've got a lot of good stuff.
I'm gonna send you a little tweak deck. I made some changes on the right tactics at the right stage page that I wanted to just refine a little bit. Of course, us marketers change things at the last minute. So.
Always. It's so
Always.
dynamic that way, and that's what's fun about it. It's not it's never static. So
Yeah, but if anybody, I could definitely, this is not a lot links thing, but outside, I could definitely, if anybody needs help sorting through this, I'd be happy to engage with people to help. And if they're struggling to figure this out, I'd be happy to get on a call with anybody who's listening.
yeah. Oh, that'd be great. Yeah. And what is, I was going to say, Suzanne, what is the best way to get in touch with you if they're interested, if they have any questions or anything like that?
It's just to email me. It's sreamer at, and can we give that out somewhere?
Yeah, I'll put it on there.
sreamer at lotlinks.com.
Okay. Email's best. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thanks again, you guys, for joining us and hopping on. We appreciate Suzanne's time and expertise. We will be sending out the replay link, and I'll make sure that we include Suzanne's email in there along with the slide deck. Also, an upcoming, little plug for Driving Sales Executive Summit coming up in September. This is like what we do. We dive into these very important topics, whether it's marketing or sales or fixed ops, anything like that, and really help you drive success, to take your store to the next level. So if you're interested in DSCS, we'd love to see you there. But thanks again, Suzanne. We really appreciate you coming on. And
it's been great. I hope you all enjoyed it.
It was awesome. Thanks again, everyone. We will see you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.